Hello, and welcome to Focus Forward 2021 Beyond the Cloud. My name is Dr. Ben Ng, and I'm an associate professor of entrepreneurship and marketing, and also the executive director of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Marshall University, which we affectionately call the I Center. And today, what I'll be delivering to you is a workshop on design thinking. Specifically, it'll be design thinking as applied to how entrepreneurs might innovate solutions to weather-related challenges, which is in line with the theme of Focus Forward this year. And with that, I'll go ahead and jump right in and start sharing my slides. And we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so now you should be able to see my slides. And the version of design thinking that you all will be learning today is Intuit's version of design thinking, which they call design for delight. So if you hear me using the term design thinking or design for delight, they really refer to the same thing. It's just that different companies will have different versions of design thinking, and Intuit's version happens to be called design for delight, sometimes also known as the acronym D4D. So that's the one you'll be learning today. So what is design thinking? Design thinking really simply and just sort of in layman's terms is a system that businesses will use to innovate breakthrough ideas for challenges, for big challenges in people's lives. And the goal really with design thinking isn't to just create ideas that work, but ideas that work and that people love to use. So whenever you create a solution that not only works but people love, then you really have these breakthrough leapfrog types of solutions that spread across the world. And the companies that use use design thinking are the best businesses in the world. So as you can see on your screen, companies like Google and Microsoft, of course, Intuit, Apple, Facebook. But if you're wondering why these companies that I just listed are always able to just innovate all these amazing ideas, there's nothing in the water of the places these companies are residing in. It's the process that they have, and this process is design thinking. And today, you guys will learn this amazing process that has enabled these companies to create all these amazing ideas. So Intuit's version of design thinking, again called D4D, design for delight, has 3 steps to it. And some design thinking processes will have 4 steps or 5 steps, but Intuit's has 3 steps, and they all pretty much get at the same thing. The first thing to really understand about the 3-step process is that it's not actually 3 steps. It starts off as 3 steps, and we teach us 3 steps, but really it's a cycle of continuous improvement, and you'll understand what I mean by that after I explain to you this in 3 steps. So to go ahead and dive into that, the first step of Intuit's design thinking problem or design thinking system, D4D, is deep customer empathy. That's the first step, deep customer empathy. And what deep customer empathy is whenever a lot of people, they innovate solutions, they really kind of focus on the solutions, but until you even think about solutions, what you really need to do is you need to focus on the problem. And that's what deep customer empathy is, and it's the most fundamental step, which is why it's the first step, which is to understand the customer and their problem at a deep level. And the empathy part of deep customer empathy is particularly important because it's not just that you're observing the customer and just sort of watching them and noticing some things. What you're really trying to do is you're trying to empathize with them. You're trying to walk a mile in their shoes, as if the problem that they're encountering is your own problem. That's what empathy means. It's not sympathy. It's not necessarily to feel bad, although you might feel bad for them, but it's really to walk a mile in their shoes and to understand the problem as if it's your own. So that's what deep customer empathy is to first gain that level, that deep level of understanding for your customer first. After you take the first step, then the second step comes into play, which is go broad to go narrow. And what go broad to go narrow is now you're thinking of solutions, but you don't want to just think of one solution, because most of the time the first solution that you'll come up with is not typically your best one, or what it is it'll be a solution that a lot of people have thought of, because it's the first solution that you thought of. So what you want to do is you want to take the cap off your mind, and you want to get out of the box a little bit and brainstorm as many possible solutions as you can. So that's what go broad means. Go broad means first brainstorm as many possible solutions as you can, and really the more radical solutions that you can think of, the better, because that's where breakthrough ideas can possibly come from. So give yourself an opportunity to be limitless and to create as many opportunities as you can. So that's the first part of go broad to go narrow. The second part is to go narrow. So once you've created a huge amount of ideas, potential solution ideas, then you want to narrow it down to your one best solution. So that's go broad to go narrow. Brainstorm as many ideas as you can, then narrow it down to your one best idea. So, which takes you to the third step of the D4D process, which is rapid experiments with customers. And so after you're done brainstorming and you pick your one best idea, what you have to realize about your one best idea is that it's still an idea. It's still an idea that's trapped inside of your mind. And even though you might assume it works, you don't know if it actually works, because it's an idea. It's just a concept that's floating around in your head. What you need to do is you need to tangibilize it, make it as tangible as possible, and then test it on a customer to see if it actually works in reality. So when you test your idea in reality, you'll start seeing that there are probably some things that worked with your idea, but you'll also find that there are some things that didn't work with your idea. And of course, the things that didn't work about your idea, those now you'll be able to know what they are. You've identified them, and you can make them better, and you can improve upon them. So what you see is after the customer experimentation, where you test your idea on a customer, you've basically come full circle and you're back to deep customer empathy, because since you've tested on a customer, you've gotten a better understanding of the customer. And now when you go broad to narrow the second time around to come up with a second version, a new and improved version of the idea, you're much smarter the second time around, because you have the experience of the first rapid experiment that you conducted. So when you go broad to narrow the second time, you'll be able to learn from your mistakes, improve upon your mistakes, and create a better version too. So, which of course, again, you don't just create one better version of version 2. You'll create multiple, because you want to go broad, and then you'll narrow it down to your best idea of a version 2, test it again, go for a version 3 and a version 4 and a version 5. And eventually you'll get there. So Elon Musk, I heard him say in a video, a really great line about this process, which is the goal isn't to necessarily be right, because it's really difficult to be right, especially the first time. The goal is to be less wrong over time. So that's really what we're talking about here, is to be less wrong over time. And you don't want to do this process slowly, right? You want to be less wrong fast. So you'll want to loop through the 3 steps as fast and as cheap as you can, so you can learn as much as you can quickly, and get to being right eventually. So that's the D4D process in a nutshell. Very simple, only 3 steps, and something that is very understandable. And of course, we've seen companies using this process to great effect, and to great delight. Hence the name Design for Delight. And one example of a company using this is I brought up Elon Musk just a second ago, but Tesla and dog mode. So what in this example, what Tesla likely did is they probably gained deep customer empathy on drivers, and they probably noticed that one of the problems that drivers have when they're out running errands is that maybe that the place that they're running errands into, like the post office or something, they're dropping off a package at UPS. They can't take their dog with them because maybe the business that they're doing the errand in doesn't allow pets or something. So their dog has to stay behind in their car. Maybe it's a hot summer day, and they're worried about their best friend, their dog, being too hot in the car. So Tesla designed dog mode. And what dog mode is, as you see on the screen, is on the big screen that they have that's in the center console of their car. My owner will be back soon. And you also see the temperature in the car right now. It's a nice sunny 73 degrees, and you can see how happy the dog is here. So you know, you can see that they've paid attention, they've empathized with their customer, found a really interesting pain point that a lot of people probably have, a lot of dog owner drivers probably have. They've innovated a very innovative solution, that not only works but is delightful to their customer. You know, like I never noticed any other car companies coming up with anything like this, right? Because you know, this design thinking process is something that Tesla has really adopted, and you can see it in their products. So just a really good example of dog mode here, and of design thinking. So just conceptually, you know, that's sort of the background of design thinking and the general parts of it. But the best way to learn to do something is, of course, just for you to do it yourself and to experience yourself. So that's what we're going to do today, and that's how you're going to learn design thinking if you're following along at home. So the design challenge that I'm going to challenge you guys to solve for, to design a solution for, is the question of how might we, as entrepreneurs, reduce the impact of an intense rain event on people's lives. So an intense rain event could be like, you know, a snowstorm or an ice storm or a heavy rainstorm that results in a big flood. So, you know, in this case, we're going to be using a flood or an intense rainstorm as an example, but you might, you know, depending on what area you live in, it might be a different type of intense weather event for you. But this is, you know, of course, in line with the theme of Focus Forward this year, Beyond the Cloud, and all the amazing things that we learned from NOAA and their organization. So we'll actually be incorporating a lot of NOAA data into the design thinking process, and that'll help you inform your understanding of the customer problem, which will then, of course, allow you to innovate some interesting solutions. So this is the question we're solving for. How might we as entrepreneurs reduce the impact of an intense rain event on people's lives? In order to before we jump into the workshop, one thing you'll want to do is you'll actually want to download a couple of worksheets and that we've created to help you follow along at home. And to access the worksheets, you'll go to www.muicenter.com. That's our website, /D4D-resources. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that onto the screen so you can kind of see what it looks like. So here is the web page, and it's, you know, you'll see the header up here, Focus Forward Beyond the Cloud. And below the header, you'll see all the resources and worksheets that we'll have. And this will just make it much easier for you to follow along and to keep things organized. So I think there's 5 downloads. Yes, there's 5 worksheets here. There is a deep customer empathy pain points worksheet, a customer problem worksheet, a go broad brainstorm worksheet, a 2x2 narrowing worksheet, and an experiment results worksheet. And of course, down here, you'll have some other things that we'll get to later on. But those are the worksheets you'll want to download for this workshop. So if you want to go ahead and pause this video and download these 5 worksheets, that would be terrific. All right. So in order to understand the question, how might we as entrepreneurs reduce the impact of an intense rain event on people's lives? I'm going to bring in some NOAA data so we can understand intense rain events a little bit more. And, you know, because I'm not even actually all that familiar with them myself. So I learned a lot listening and learning from NOAA's data set. And our good friend Doug Perry at NOAA provided this data to us. So here's a little bit of some understanding about the situation first. What you're seeing right now on the screen is some data from NOAA that shows the levels of precipitation over Richwood, West Virginia, sometime between June 24th in 2016. And this what you're seeing here is a really nasty flood. They called it a 1,000-year flood. It was one of the worst floods in West Virginia history. And of course, like, you know, what you're seeing in green is some level of precipitation or rain. Yellow is a little bit more. Red is getting pretty bad, and then purple that's some nasty stuff. If you can see on the legend over here or the chart, whenever you see deep purple or pink, that's a lot of rain. So what this level of precipitation created was one of the deadliest flood events in West Virginia history. So that's what you're looking at from a radar point of view. And then here's a little bit more context of the Richwood flood, the Richwood intense rain event. So we can see, if you know military time, sometime around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on the 23rd of 2006, June 23rd, 2016, we see a really big spike here of flooding that happened in one of the rivers that is in Richwood. It looks like it's the Cherry River, and we can see that around 4 o'clock, around 3, 4 o'clock, it really peaked at very, very high levels before it started receding a little bit. But yeah, and of course, and then down here we see around 8 o'clock that a bridge collapsed. So some very, very deadly things that have happened here, and just out of nowhere, this huge flood due to the intense rainfall from what you saw here. So this event happened in 2016, but NOAA has indicated that that according to their data, the levels of extreme precipitation and these types of events, these types of intense weather events are probably going to continue and perhaps get worse. And in West Virginia, we are particularly vulnerable to these types of to the negative impacts of these types of events, because we tend to have a lot of mountains, and then we have a lot of valleys, and in those valleys a lot of our communities reside in them. So when the water drains down to the valleys, it can flood the valleys really, really quickly. So this is a big challenge for us. This is a grand challenge for us. So not just a once in a 1,000 year event, unfortunately, and it's something that we're going to have to design solutions to reduce the impact of. So it's a grand challenge, and a great challenge for design thinking. So just to jump right in, and if you guys remember the very first step of, now that we understand a little bit of the challenge that we're trying to solve for, now we'll just go ahead and dive right in to the challenge itself. And step one, if you remember, is deep customer empathy. Again, this is where we're really trying to walk a mile in people's shoes. And in this case, we really want to try to understand people that were impacted by this Richwood flood event. And if we can really understand what they went through and empathize what they went through, then at that point we can start creating really impactful solutions to help them. So deep customer empathy. So here's where you'll want to get out your first worksheet, which is the Deep Customer Empathy Pain Points worksheet. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you 2 sets of slides, and both sets of slides will have multiple pictures and some quotes from the newspaper about the Richwood flooding event that happened in 2016. And what I want you to do is I want you to immerse yourself in the pictures and in the quotes that you'll read from the newspaper describing the event. And I want you to try to walk a mile and deeply empathize with the people that lived in Richwood, and try to understand what it was like for them. And as you're empathizing with them, list down in your worksheet, like the one you see here, you'll see a bunch of different fill in the blank lines. Try to identify as many things that might be painful for them, or any barriers that might have existed that prevented them from doing something that they wanted to do. It could be anything that's, even if it's minor, what you perceive as minor, go ahead and list it down. Or it could be something just enormously catastrophic. List that down. Any type of point that's painful for them or a pain point, list that down. And here I'll go ahead and scroll to the very first slide. Again, there'll be 2 slides. There'll be another one after this with more pictures. But there's a little bit of a description from a local newspaper down here and at the bottom here that describes the situation. And then there's a couple pictures. And again, what I want you to do is identify as many pain points as you can see. And of course, like there's one pain point that it's pretty obvious. There's somebody's car is in the water. That's not good. So, but just try to really dig down deep and take a look. And what I'll do is I'll give you 5 minutes to sit down and really immerse yourself into this picture and identify as many pain points. And so what you can do, what I encourage you to do right now is go ahead and press pause and identify in 5 minutes as many as you can. And then you can unpause and bring me back on, and we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so hopefully you've taken 5 minutes to identify pain points from this slide, and now I'll move on to the second slide. And if you want, you can go ahead and press pause again and take a look at the second slide of pictures. And again, 5 minutes, go ahead and list as many pain points as you can on that worksheet, and go. Okay, so hopefully you're able to come up with a huge list of pain points. And in the event you weren't able to come up with a lot of pain points, that's okay. Again, I know that you're still learning. This is an intro to design thinking, so I know you're still learning it. And I've provided a list here of a lot of different pain points that you could have identified. And if you didn't identify them, feel free to look here and go ahead and write some in. But it could have been some pain points, could have been some infrastructure damage. So maybe you saw some roads and bridges that were collapsed or damaged, some pipes and power lines that might have been down, some schools or some buildings that were flattened, police stations, perhaps homes destroyed. And of course, you probably also noticed that, or probably could infer that it's probably a lot of food, some food shortages and water shortages and medical shortages, all of these types of things and supplies. The disabled vehicle, of course, we saw a big picture of that, and just a bunch of other potential other pain points that you could have identified. And perhaps you also identified ones that I didn't see or ones that weren't on the list. That's great if you did, and that's awesome. So what we want to move, well, now that we've got a huge amount of problems, it might almost seem just insurmountable, and it might almost seem too big. It's like, well, gosh, what are you gonna, when you take a look at all these problems, like, oh my gosh, how do you ever fix something like this? Where do you even start? And the answer to where do you even start is you just got to start somewhere. Just solve one problem first, right? For one person first, and then improve, and then get better. And that's what the customer problem statement is aimed at doing, is really getting you laser focused on solving one problem first. So I'll dive down into it a little bit more here in a second of what the customer problem statement is. But basically the concept behind a customer problem statement is to think big, but start small. Again, just start with one problem, just start with one pain point that you see, and eventually you'll get to the other ones. And then, you'll then put a huge dent in the ultimate challenge of a flood or an intense rain event. But just start somewhere first, right? Just got to get started somewhere first. So think big, try to take on a massive challenge. Like, well, how do we reduce the impact of an intense rain event? But start small, just start small, and just try to build some traction up to the big problem, and eventually you'll get there. And a good example of this is Google. So Google, the grand challenge that they're trying to solve is they're trying to create a device that answers every single question in the world. That's what Google is attempting to do. And have they solved that challenge? Probably not. There's still a lot of questions that when I type in a question to Google, it doesn't give me the perfect answer. But I think we all have to admit they're getting pretty close, right? I mean, they're doing a pretty good job. So they just started small, and they're getting there. So that's what I would suggest for you as well. So first thing, think big, start small. The second thing is you really want to get clear on the problem. So as all this information is coming to you, it's really sort of hard to sort of start organizing it, and so you really want to be able to find one problem, one pain point that you see that you really want to solve, and one that really impacts their lives. That's always the pain point that I encourage people to take on, is when you've got a list of these kinds of problems, like here, which one is the one that you think that if you solved it, would make the most improvement upon the customer's life, to the person's life? Which one of these would, in your opinion? Of course, and it's a subjective question, and it also probably depends on your skills and passions and interests. But which one of these do you think, if you solved it, would make the most improvement upon a person's life? That's the one you should start with. That's the one you should pick. So again, we'll dive down into the customer problem statement here in a second, but I'll describe it. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit more. So whenever you're creating a customer problem statement, what you'll really want to do is you'll want to answer 5 questions. The first question is, who is it that you're trying to solve for? Who's the person with the problem? Who's the quote unquote customer? As the term that we use in business, customer. Who's the person who has the problem that you're trying to solve for? That's the first question. The second one is, what's their biggest pain point? Again, what's the one thing that if you solved it would make the biggest improvement upon their life? Why is it occurring? Why is that barrier? Why is that pain point occurring? What were they trying to accomplish? Like, when this pain point occurred or this barrier occurred, what was it that they were trying to do that they were prevented from doing? And then whenever this pain point occurs or this barrier occurs, how does it make them feel? Like, what emotion does that generate? So what you'll want to do here when you're really trying to focus in on these 5 questions here is you're trying to fall in love with the problem. Don't even right now think about a solution. Don't worry. Again, that'll come second. That'll be the second part of the workshop. When you go broad to go narrow. Right now, it's all about getting deep customer empathy, really trying to walk a mile in their shoes, fall in love with their problem as if it was your own. Don't even worry about the solution. That'll come later. So here's a customer problem statement, and it kind of looks like a Mad Libs, if you remember what Mad Libs were. So it's just a fill in the blanks kind of thing where you'll want to answer the question. The first blank you'll want to fill is, my customer is blank. And then this is just a summary, a high level overview of the customer. He or she is trying to, what is it they're trying to do? What is their goal in this situation? But this pain point occurs. Or this barrier to this goal occurs. Why? This is because the root cause. So what is the root cause of this barrier, this pain point that exists, which makes him or her feel some type of negative emotion, frustrated, angry, insecure, something like that. So this is what you'll want to fill out. And again, it really is just these 5 questions that I've asked right here. These are essentially the same questions that are filled out in this Mad Libs worksheet. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to play a video for you, and the video I think is about 5 or 6 minutes long. And as you're watching the video, record on your try to fill out this customer problem statement sheet. So really try to understand the customer, fall in love with the problem in a deep way. And try to fill out this customer problem statement as you're watching this video that I'm about to show you. Okay, hang on 1 second.
It looked like a river coming down. You can see the gully out there. Terrible. It came in our basement and over the wall next door. I have never, ever seen water like this.
Explain it a little bit.
It was just like a roaring river.
Yeah,
out of its banks and
it
roaring.
was from our sidewalk over to the other house over there, over to Mr. Pratt's. It was about probably a foot deep coming off of here, and it was like that from yesterday afternoon up until here. Well, it's still flowing a little bit, as you can see. But it was clear on our sidewalk, too.
No, it came up to our 3rd step, to our front door. And our car was parked here in the alley. And the little girl from across the street waded water this high and said our car was sinking down in the alley. And she moved our vehicle. So I don't know when we'll ever get it out.
Did you ever consider leaving?
Where would we go? You couldn't get out.
Yeah, I'll tell you, out back, like about an inch and a half of coming in our bathroom back there.
And we have a back stoop where we step out of our utility room to the outside, and it washed our stoop away down in the lower part of the yard. I mean, there's no way you couldn't get a vehicle up this hill yesterday or last night.
Well, it started about 2 o'clock there yesterday. We had some swiftwater rescue. We went out and tried to get some people out of the place, block traffic, keep people from driving through the high water down here at Mumsy's restaurant, and also just tried to keep people happy and healthy, you know, so healthy. And we got water in here from National Guard yesterday, last night about 11 o'clock, unloaded. That's what they're passing out now.
Have you seen floods like this before? Or?
No, sir. No, this is, and from older people in the town, they say it's the worst they've ever seen.
So basically when it all hit, what was the move? What was everybody doing? Or?
Well, it just came down so quick. You know, it was raining since 6 o'clock that morning, and it just didn't let up. And by the time it all started rising, and then over here behind the high school, the water come up over the banks out of the Cherry, and then that was it. I mean, we was stuck here. You know, we couldn't get out of town. The main street was blocked. You couldn't get it down Oakford Avenue. The water couldn't get nowhere it is, about 4 feet deep down that way. So we was here.
It's just incredible. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I've lived here for 64 years and seen water run down the road before, but nothing like this. Well, I was at work. It took me an hour and a half to go 10 miles last night. I had to go around by Summersville from where I work, come around through Nettie, and the parts of the roads were washed out there. Just a disaster. That's all you can say.
It basically started pouring. We were watching a movie. Next thing you know, we looked out and seen the whole town flooding. So we basically got dressed and came down to get her out of here because it was that deep. It was up over there by Lambert's. It was up to my waist. And it was just coming and it would not stop. The current was strong, so I couldn't even get their rear ends out of here because the current was that bad. It took a van all the way down that way to the bridge. Most people were calm. Some people were panicking. I was fine because I'm like, it's water. If it's going to get deep, your best bet's go to higher ground. That's all you can do. Can't stop Mother Nature. You can't prevent it. All you can do is just bear with the town, do what you got to do. And if you can do what you can do, then you'll be all right. Well, I managed to get through it, and everybody's driving through it like it's nothing. If I were them, I wouldn't be driving through it because the way these roads are breaking, they're going to end up hitting a sinkhole and there goes the truck. But they're chancing it, so.
Okay, so hopefully you were able to complete a customer problem statement while you're watching that video. If not, here's one that you can use, or here's just an example if you want to compare yours to mine. There's not really a right answer or wrong answer to this. Again, a lot of this will just be sort of your things that you'll notice, problems that you identify with, that you're passionate about solving. And so even though you're seeing mine, this doesn't mean it's the right one or the wrong one. This is just one that I created. But I would encourage you to create your own for the problems that you feel like you're passionate about solving. So anyways, the example that I have here, in the event that you weren't able to create one, or if you just want to compare, my customer is a citizen of a town or a citizen of Richwood that just got hit by an intense rain event. Again, this is just a description of something that just describes them from a high level point of view. He or she is trying to get to a safe area such as higher ground. So that's the outcome, is that they're just trying to escape this terrible flooding. But they can't drive their vehicle through the flooded streets. So I really took that from the last guy who, even as you're watching that truck drive across the water, you're like, oh my gosh, is he going to hit a sinkhole or whatever he was describing? So that was sort of what kind of I noticed the most. That's what sort of stuck out at me. Because what was the root cause of this? what is the barrier that's preventing them to all this, is that they didn't have enough time to get to the safe area because the flood happened so quickly. So that to me was the root cause. Again, you might disagree. You might think there's another root cause, and that's totally fine. Again, you might even have a totally different problem. But for me, I said because they didn't have enough notice of the flood to get to a safe area in time, which makes him or her feel scared for their life, scared for their livelihood, scared for their house, just scared. So that's my customer problem statement. Again, just, hopefully you have one that you're equally as passionate about solving as the one that I created through our customer empathy. So now that we have this very specific problem that we're trying to solve for, in this case, the problem we're trying to solve for is can't drive the vehicle through the flood because they didn't have enough time to get to a safe area. So now we're going to try to create as many possible solutions as we can for that one specific problem. Now, of course, what we're getting into is the second step of design thinking, which is, design for delight, which is known as go broad to go narrow. And to get one great idea, you need lots and lots of ideas. That's the general gist behind go broad to go narrow. And what you want to do with go broad to go narrow is give yourself a chance to hit the slump. And what I mean by the slump is usually what will happen when you go broad, when you're trying to brainstorm as many ideas as you can, when you first start, you'll actually come up with quite a few ideas. You might come up with 5 or 6 ideas right at the get-go, but then you'll sort of run out of ideas, or at least it'll feel like you've run out of ideas. And here's this little slump here that I was kind of mentioning. So you'll sort of hit this real, you'll spike this real big high of lots of ideas, and then you'll just kind of come crashing down. And you're like, oh, I'm done with ideas. You actually aren't done with ideas. You might think you're done with ideas, but you're not. You actually have to embrace the slump, because what happens following the slump is you'll get a second wind of ideas, and these ideas will actually be far more creative and far more impactful than your first set of ideas. These are ideas where you've sort of pushed past your own limits and reached a new level. And that's the second hump. The second camel hump is really what you're trying to get to. So as you're creating these first sets of ideas, just try to get as many as you can out there. Don't necessarily worry about it. And then you'll hit the slump. And when you hit the slump, try to leapfrog off your initial ideas. So what you'll see in the worksheet that you'll have for this go broad brainstorm worksheet is you'll try to fill up as many ideas as you can. So go ahead and just fill up as many ideas as you can. You probably even have a couple already in your mind. You go ahead and put those in the bank. And then when you hit a slump, start looking at these idea prompts, and you'll see in these idea prompts a bunch of ways to elevate your original set of ideas. So you'll see things like, well, what if you had $1 billion to solve this problem? What would you do? Or what if you forget $1 billion? What if you had an infinite amount of money? What would you do to solve the problem? What if you had a magic wand? If you had a magic wand, what would you do to solve the problem? If you had $0 and you had to get really scrappy and creative, what would you do and just kind of had to rely on your own survival skills. What would you do to solve it? So you'll see a bunch of different idea prompts here that will allow you to sort of get past that first slump and get into that second hump of great ideas. So what you'll want to do now is take 5 minutes to brainstorm as many different ideas as you can. And again, you don't want like ordinary ideas. I mean, write down whatever ideas. If an ordinary idea comes in, just write it down. That's great. But push yourself to think of extraordinary ideas, because extraordinary ideas are the ones that make a difference. Those are the ones that don't exist in the world right now. So really try to push yourself to take the limit off of your own creativity and give it a shot. And look, again, these are all ideas. It doesn't cost you a dime to like come up with an idea. You can, if it's a bad idea, it's fine. You won't narrow it to it anyway. So just write it down to get the rhythm going, and just see as many as you can get in 5 minutes. So go ahead and take your worksheet out and press pause on me, and I'll give you 5 minutes of uninterrupted time to come up with as many ideas as you can to the pain point of, and again, you will have at this point probably your own pain point, but if you want to use mine, it's the pain point of people can't drive their vehicles down the flooded streets because they didn't have enough time to get to the safe area. So feel free to use mine, but if you have your own, then create as many ideas of solutions as you can for your problem or for my problem, and go ahead and press pause now. Okay, so hopefully now your 5 minutes is back up, and or your 5 minutes is up and you're back with me. And so the next slide that we have is go narrow. So we just went broad. You've created as many possible ideas as you can. You've put all those ideas in the bank. Hopefully some of them are pretty wild. It's quantity that matters, not quality at this point, or at that point. But now what we'll get into is go narrow. So now that you've got a bunch of ideas, we're going to narrow it down to your one best idea. So what does best mean in terms of your one best idea? And the two criteria that Intuit tends to use, or that we'll use, is desirability and innovativeness. And desirability basically means, does the idea make a big improvement on the person's life? You know, how well does it solve the problem? How desirable is the idea to the customer in terms of how well it solves the problem? And again, we're not just trying to do something that works. Like we want to do something that they love, right? The term desirability, like the peak of desirability is you love it. So how on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, how much do they love it? 10 being that they absolutely love it. So that's the first criteria, is how much they love the idea because it solves their problem well. The second one is how innovative is it? How new is it compared to the existing alternative that they were using before? And what you're wanting isn't just one or the other. You actually want both. You want something that's highly desirable, something that really solves the problem well, and something that's very, very innovative in the sense that nobody's ever done it before. So whenever you have both of these two criteria, you've hit. Whenever you have an idea that has hit both of these two criteria, then that's a pretty good idea. So what Intuit has is they have this tool called the 2x2, and there's a worksheet for this as well. The 2x2 worksheet is something that is part of the download package that we have. And what you'll do is you'll want to take every idea that you have and you'll want to plot it down into one of these 4 boxes in the 2x2. So in the corner right, you'll want to plot all your ideas that are both highly desirable and very innovative. So all those ideas that meet both those two criteria go in the top corner right box. In the top left corner box, these are ideas that solve the problem well, but they're not very innovative because other people probably have already come up with these ideas. So those go over here in the left corner box. Down at the bottom, you'll have ideas that don't solve the problem very well and other people have already kind of done them, or they're not very innovative. And then on the corner right, bottom right, you've got innovative ideas, but they don't solve the problem very well. So they're cool ideas, they're really neat, but you're really creative, but they just don't solve the problem very well. So what you do when you plot out all your ideas in one of these 4 quadrants, you'll throw away all the ideas that are in all the quadrants except for the corner right. Right. So all the ideas that are in the corner right that are highly desirable and innovative, those are the keepers. Those are the ones that you want to narrow down to. And then of that set of ideas that are in the corner right, which one is your most desirable and most innovative? So pick the one, narrow it down to the one very most innovative and very highest desirable option. That's your best one. So go ahead and take 5 minutes and type in all the ideas that you had from your Go Broad bank. So this idea bank here, take all of the ideas there and plot them into one of these 4 boxes. And then of course, you'll be left with these corner right boxes, these corner right ideas in that box. And then that will be what you'll narrow down to. So go ahead and take 5 minutes and narrow down to your one best idea. And you can press pause now. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to narrow using the 2x2 tool, narrow down to your one best idea, which is in your corner right. And now that you've got your best idea, winner, chicken dinner, we are now going to move to the third the third and final step of design for delight, D for D, which is rapid experiments with customers. And what rapid experiments with customers is, now you've got an idea, it's in the 2x2, you figured out which one's your best one, but it's still an idea. You got to see if it works in reality, because right now it's just an assumption that you think is going to work, right? It's an idea you're assuming will work, but you don't know if it will actually work. So what you want to do is, you don't want to take forever to figure out if your idea is a good idea. You want to test it out really, really quickly, so you can learn if it's a good idea or not, or which parts are good, or which parts of your idea are good, which parts of your idea aren't so good that you need to improve. So you want to get to that really, really quickly. So the goal here is to fail fast to learn fast. And we want to talk to real customers. We don't want to just, ask ourselves if the idea, we're biased, we tend to be very biased. And if it's our idea, we always think our idea is the best, but we're not the customer. We need to take it out to real customers to find out whether or not the idea is good. So honesty is really the most important thing here. So here's a funny example of why you want to test things out with the customers and not yourself. So you can see in this little comic strip, you've got a couple parents here who bought a mobile for their baby, a little baby mobile, and the parents absolutely love their idea. Both of them are saying, "I love it, me too." And you got this, this mobile that makes noise and it makes music, and man, they're so happy. But the second picture is the perspective of the actual customer, who is the baby, right? So the baby is the one that's the user, is the end user of the mobile. They're the ones that are trying to sleep without crying. And what are they seeing from this thing? They're just seeing the stuffed animal butts, right? Like for them, it's not the greatest experience for them. For the parents, they're having it's a great experience for the parents, but it's not a great experience right now for the baby, who's the end user. So this was an idea that was probably a terrific concept of the person that built the baby mobile, but they forgot to test it on the customer and the baby to see if the baby actually liked it. So this is something that a rapid experiment would have easily identified very, very early on in the process. So we don't want to do this. We don't want to develop these kinds of ideas like the one you see here. We want to develop great ideas that the baby would love. So what you're going to do now is you're going to create a really, really quick prototype, so that way you can tangibilize your idea. And then once you tangibilize the idea into a prototype, then we're going to test the idea. But don't worry about testing the idea right now. We're just going to build the prototype. And again, the key here is speed. Try to create a prototype really, really quickly. And in this case, I'm going to give you like 10 minutes, but you can take a little bit longer than that in real life. This is obviously a quick workshop, but don't take more than a day or two to create the prototype. It should be really, really fast, because you just want to test the idea as quick as you can. So how do you build a prototype of an idea that you have? One great way, there are many, many different ways to do it. But one way that's really simple is to sketch out a landing page. And what a landing page is you've probably seen landing pages many times before. Maybe you've heard of the term, maybe you haven't. But basically, it's just like a web page that describes. It's a page that a business will have, and the business is trying to describe their product to you in the hopes that you'll sign up for the product. So in the example that I have here on the right, you'll see Shopify. What Shopify is a company that helps entrepreneurs create e-commerce web pages so they can sell whatever the products that they have are online. So that's what Shopify does. It's a service that does that. And of course, this is their landing page. And what you see is at the top of the line, you always just see what the company does. In this case, sell online with Shopify. So, they're just telling entrepreneurs, hey, you can sell online with us. We'll help you do it. And then they have this little subline here, trusted by over 400,000 businesses worldwide. So generally speaking, what you see at the top of the landing page is just the brand, in this case, Shopify. Then their big selling point, which in this case is sell online with Shopify in big font. And then underneath that, you'll typically see some type of what was called an email capture. And basically, it's an action that tells you whether or not the customer is in or not, right? Like, would they actually put their email in, or would they not put their email in? So it's kind of like it's kind of like a test to see if how much they truly like the idea, right? Because, sometimes, like actions speak louder than words, right? So sometimes people will say they like something or they would sign up for something, but here you're actually seeing if they would, right? Because if they type in their email address, then they're actually, are interested at least enough to give you their email address. So there's usually some type of email capture here. Below that is typically some type of picture of the item that the company sells. In this case, it's a website or an e-commerce site. And then below that, there's usually the 3 key features of the product. So in this case, it's beautiful themes that are responsive and customizable. Great price, right? As low as $9 a month, trusted by over 400,000 businesses worldwide. So, just 3 kind of bragging points that describe the business a little bit, 3 key features or benefits. So, and then that's the landing page. And of course, this one is like nice, this one is done with graphic design and all that kind of stuff. But right now, in terms of a prototype for you, you can just sketch one out, right? You can just sketch one out, draw it, or if you're good at PowerPoint or Canva, or if you have Canva or you're good at Paint, you can probably hack one of these really hack one of these landing pages really quickly. And of course, the email part won't work. It's just a fake email, capture. But go ahead and take 10 minutes to create a sketch landing page. And again, it's not going to probably look like what you're seeing here for Shopify, because again, this is designed by graphic designers and all that. But if you can make a real scrappy and quick version of your idea, so take your idea and develop a scrappy landing page for it in 10 minutes. And I'll go ahead and give you 10 minutes. So go ahead and press pause now and come back in 10 minutes. Okay, so hopefully you've taken the last 10 minutes and created a prototype landing page for your product and of your solution idea, not your product, but your solution idea to the pain point. And now what you'll do is you'll test that idea out on a customer. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to find a customer that has the problem or has had the problem that you're solving for. So luckily in this case, a lot of people in West Virginia have probably encountered a flood situation or some type of intense rain event in some time in their lives. And so you probably won't have too hard of a time finding somebody. But what you'll want to do is you'll want to find one person. It can be, over Zoom, it can be in real life, whichever, but you'll just want to talk to them for about 15 to 20 minutes. And you'll just want to test your landing page on them. And what you'll want to ask them is, the first thing you'll want to do is you'll want to hand them the landing page. Maybe like you bring up a screen share or something and you show them your PowerPoint slide or your Canva or your sketch or whatever it is. You'll show it to them and just kind of at first, don't try to explain it to them, because your landing page should be able to speak for itself. Again, if this is Shopify and we see Shopify can't narrate this to us, right? Like this is just appearing on our webpage and we either sign up or we don't sign up. So, make it realistic. So do that when you're testing this on a customer as well. Give them the, bring up the screen, show them the prototype and get their, just give it to them, see how they react to it and try to pick up on their reactions. And you might want to give them one direction, which is, have them talk out their thoughts. So whatever they're thinking, have them verbalize the thoughts. So that way you can take notes on what their initial reactions are. And then after you've given them some time to sort of talk out their thoughts, ask them, would you put your email in this? If you, after reading this landing page, would you have put your email in there? And, and see what they have to say. And after you ask that question, dive a little bit deeper and then ask them about the positives and the deltas. So this is now the form that the final form that we have you guys download, which is the experiment results. So you can take notes on what were all the parts of your landing page that they liked. So these are the positives. And then on the other side of this is what are all the parts of the prototype that they would change, and a change is called a delta. So the positives, which are the pluses, and then the deltas, which are the triangles, the things that they would change. That's what you're trying to record here. So really just kind of four instructions there. So the first one is just tell them to have them take a look at it while you remain silent, and having them talk out their thoughts. That's the first thing. Have them talk out their initial reactions. Second one is, how likely were they to actually put down their email address? That's the second thing. The third thing is the positives, the things that they liked. And the fourth thing is the deltas, the things they would change. And that's what you'll just want to take notes of down here on the experiment results. And what you'll want to do is maybe, again, talk to them for maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes or so. Just, nothing too long, but just enough to get a sense of, the desirability of your solution, how much they love it. So, and then that's it. That's actually the first, you've done one complete loop of the Intuit's D4D process, the design for delight process. You gained deep customer empathy. You went broad to narrow. You developed a prototype and tested that prototype in a rapid experiment with a customer. And what that sets you up for is now a second version. So what you could do now that you've gotten feedback from your customer and gotten empathy from them, you'll be able to now go back to broad to narrow and create a new and improved version that you can test and improve, and so on and so on. So that's what we call one loop and one iteration. And of course, you'll want to do as many iterations as you can until you feel like, until your customer feels like that you created a solution that they absolutely love and solves the problem in such a way that they are delighted by using your solution. In terms of wrapping up, so obviously the first iteration, the first version of your prototype, it's really scrappy. You probably just drew it. It's probably not very realistic looking. It may or may not have solved the problem very well. That's normal. You're not supposed to have an awesome solution the very first go around. Again, the goal is to be less wrong over time. And imagine if you had, this workshop probably took you about an hour and a half or something. But imagine if you had one full day, or one full week, or one full month, or one full year, how many iterations you could do to get there. And if you think about it from that perspective, if you had done tons and tons of iterations, I would pretty much guarantee you in a week or so, or a month or so, in a year or so, you would have an amazing solution. So we see this with Silicon Valley companies all the time. What you're seeing on the left here is the iPhone 1. And then I think what you're seeing on the right there is the iPhone 12 or the iPhone 11. And, you got to ask yourself, why are there 12 versions of the iPhone? Why didn't they just stop at 1? Because, they're iterating, they're getting closer and closer and closer to solving the challenges that they're trying to solve. And of course, within the iPhone, there's all these apps that are solving challenges. So, but yeah, the idea is to just start somewhere and get better. Learn from your experiences and improve upon your solution every day. And that's what we see these companies doing. They just keep improving. So that's actually it for the workshop. But what would be great is if you took a survey, a really quick survey to help us out. It should only take about 2 minutes long. Because what we like to do is we like to do D4D on our own workshop. We practice what we preach, and we try to improve our workshops every single time. So if you would be so kind as to take this survey, that will help us improve our workshops, so that way we can deliver them better and help you out more. So if you could do that, that would be great. And if the survey is on the same page as the downloads. So here's the screen again. Oops, sorry. So, oops. Yeah. So if you scroll down here below the download forms, you'll actually see the survey. So you can just click on the link and take that. That would be awesome if you took it. The other thing too is if you want, and you've created a PowerPoint slide for your prototype, or you have a prototype that you could upload and share with us, we would absolutely love to see your prototype that you came up with. And we'll also share it with NOAA as well, because they might be interested in seeing what solutions you came up with. So if you could input your first name, your last name, your email, and then upload your prototype, that would be awesome. Again, you don't have to do it, completely optional. Same thing with the survey, completely optional. But if you'd like to do that, we would love to have the feedback from you guys and would love to see your prototypes. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. And then if you would like to learn more about design thinking or innovation or entrepreneurship, you can sign up for our newsletter, and it's called Iterations. And you can go to the same website as before. And if you click on about on our website and click on Iterations, you will be able to see all our past iterations that we have, and also how to subscribe to iterations in the future. So if that's interesting to you, that is available. And alternatively, you can also reach out to us on our website to schedule a workshop for your company, and we'd be happy to help with your company as well. And our contact information, again, is on the same website as before. And that is the end of the workshop. So I hope that you had a great experience with it. Again, don't worry if you didn't come up with the greatest solution in the world in 1 hour. You're not supposed to. Again, the goal is to just start somewhere and to get better and improve. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Again, my name is Ben, and my last name is Ng. Feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to help. Hope you had a great time with our workshop, and hope to see you soon. Take care.